Hello, I hope you are doing great. Today we are going to see a quick example on how to use Azure Logic app to process your invoices. Now, before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and visit the links in the video description. Also, you can help the channel, and the way that you can help the channel is actually described in the video description too. You can see a couple of items where it says how you can help the channel to keep the videos free and be able to keep making more videos frequently. Okay, so one of the things that we are going to do is, or that you need to do is, you need to have a storage account already created, or you have to create one. And one of the things that you may want to do is create two containers, a container for the source invoices and a container for the processed invoices. The source invoices is going to have all of the invoices that are going to be sent to the Azure Form Recognizer service, and then those are going to be copied to the process invoices and deleted from the source invoices in order, or so that we do not process an invoice multiple times, right? The other thing that we need to do is, of course, have your Azure Form Recognizer um, service already created, right? So you can get the endpoint and the key that you will need to create the configuration, right, or the connection. And the other thing that you may want to have is a an SQL table name invoice or whoever you want with a couple of fields, the invoice number, the description, and the amount, right? I just said invoice ID to identity, right? And the invoice number is actually the ID that we are going to retrieve from Azure Form Recognizer, right? Description, if there is some description, I actually messed with this one. You need to add other fields, but we will continue with this. Descriptions are actually more suitable for the items themselves, for the line items of the invoice instead of for the invoice itself, right? Here you will have instead things like vendor, right? Address, probably email, things like that, right? But we'll continue with this base. Okay, and then you have to publish that database and have it in the cloud, right? The other thing that you will need to do is create a logic app. And the logic app is basically going to have a couple of steps. So if we go to the designer, you will see a couple. Actually, this one, we do not need it, this initialized variable. So the first thing that we want to do is declare how often or what is going to be or trigger to execute the processing of the invoices, right? So one of the ways is you can have a recurrence trigger executing every hour, for example. So every hour it's going to go and check the invoices that are in the specific folder, right? Process them and finish that. Then the next, after 1 hour, it will process the next one and so on, right? So here I have it configured to 3 minutes, right? Only that, right? Because I was testing and I set the default, right? Then the other thing that you need to do is create an action for the Azure Blob storage, right? So you will look for Azure Blob storage, and then you will configure it, right? Then you will select uh, you will select the list blobs, right? You will set the actual connection, then you set the folder, and then you need to iterate through all of those items, right? You copy the blob, Then one of the fastest way to do it is um, to process the item is create a SAS URI by path, right? Basically, well, for the copy path, you basically do, you set the source URL is going to be the path, and the destination blob path is going to be the name of the destination folder slash and the name of the file, right? In this case, I have overwrite yes because I am testing with just one file, but uh, it may not be safe to do it if you have um, multiple or different invoices with the same file name. You need to guarantee that that does not happen. Right now, since I do not want to get the content in here, I just want to send the URL to the service. What I do is I create a SAS URL by path, right? We set the storage connection settings. We set the actual path, right, for the blob that we want to generate that SAS URI for, right? We are only going to give read permissions to that URI, and then we add the form recognizer action. So you basically do add action, you look for form recognizer, you will show up in here, right? And then you set the web URL generated in the create SAS URI by path, right? You said, yeah, include text details, right? You can add more parameters if you want those, right? And then the other thing that you will do is you are going to insert or to iterate through all of the document results, right? Create the SQL action. It's basically an insert action. You select the database connection. You select the database name. You select the table, and as soon as you select the table, the fields of that table will show up, right? So you said which field is going to be the invoice number. In this case, the invoice number column is going to be set to the invoice ID of the um, analysis results. Description, since I mess up in there, I just set n/a or not applicable um, manually. And the amount is going to be the amount due field, right? And then after this is successful, you will delete this source blob, right? So let's see that it doesn't have anything in here. So there is nothing in here. We'll go to the source invoices. I will add the um, sample invoice that we have on the Microsoft website that we can actually download in the Microsoft website, right? And then I am going to do run trigger so it executes immediately, right? And after it executes, you will see if it succeeded or if it failed, right? It takes a while, so it succeeded. Now, if I go to the database and I execute the query to retrieve the data, I will see that there is an item, right? This is the second insert that I did in this table, so this is how to generate it with two. The invoice number, it actually found that the invoice number was one in IMB-100. Description is the n/a that I set manually, and the amount is going to be this 610. This is actually the due amount, right? Now, this is just for the main items of the invoice, right? But you can also iterate through all of the items. So you see that here you have like the document results, right? But you could also go to all of the items, right? the items of here, you see that this has like item fields, and there you will have all of the lines for the all of the lines that compose the invoice, right? Pretty much you will have the items with the item description, the unit price, the quantity, and the amount or the total amount for that specific line, right? So in order to do that, one of the things that you will have to go is create another table that will be something like invoice lines, invoice details, right? However you want to call it, you will have to create the respective columns, right? There you will have a description, which is going to be a string, and the rest of the columns are going to be floats, right? You will have the unit price column, the quantity column, and the amount column, right? And then you will have to create another SQL Server insert on that new table, right? And set the fields respectively, right? And then you will have the data for both the invoice mastered or the invoice main items and the other table with the invoice items, right? For this specific invoice, right? So I hope this has been useful. Please let us know anything you would like to learn about .NET Core, right? .NET 5, .NET 6, MAUI, MAUI Blazor, Unity, and Microsoft Azure. Thank you very much and have a great day.